Hello. I'm happy to introduce our sixth podcast. In this episode, we are continuing the discussions that Maria and Luca started in episode 1. Yes. Today it's again all about artificial intelligence. And no one could be a better expert to interview than our newest addition to the team, our trusted AI quarterback, lead data scientist, AI aficionado, Manuel Morales Wyden. He's a partner at our Exponential Technologies XLabs. XLabs and works on AI research and venture building. Manuel is also a lecturer for AI at Zurich University of Applied Sciences in Business Administration and has indeed an amazing background. Hailing from my personal favorite city in Europe, Barcelona, he studied business at University of St. Gallen and then moved on to one of the leading technology institutes in the world, ETH Zurich, where he dove deep into data science and artificial intelligence. I'm absolutely sure you will enjoy today's conversation with him as much as I do. Thanks for dialing in.
Hello, Manuel.
Hello.
This is our 5th episode in the SNGLR Podcast series. And today it is all about you, Manuel Morales Wyden. And today is about artificial intelligence. And thanks to you, we were able to come to this really beautiful spot. So why don't you say a few words about yourself and what is this here? Where are we?
Yes, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. And we are here at ETH Zurich at the university. And we are at the terrace of the Dozentenfoyer, one of the most beautiful places in Zurich, especially because of the view that you can surely also see here in the video. And yes, about myself, I'm from here. I'm studying here currently, or just at the end of my studies at ETH Zurich. And yeah, looking forward to talk with you now.
Amazing. I mean, for those viewers who don't know, I mean, ETH Zurich, the Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule is one of probably the top 10 technical universities in the world. Magic stuff has been happening here, and probably with you, magic stuff is happening right now. This is the city of Zurich. What you see behind is the Lake of Zurich. It's a really beautiful spot, a very inspirational spot. And I mean, what on your journey, I think it's always interesting for our viewers to understand what brought you actually here? How did you end up here? And then later, of course, we're going to talk about your favorite subject, AI. But what brought you here? What was your journey in life so far to end up at this prestigious facility?
Yes, I did not have a straightforward path to come to ETH Zurich. I did not do my bachelor's here, but actually, as you know, we started at the same university, at University of St. Gallen. And there I was doing my bachelor's in business. But I realized during my business bachelor's that I actually saw that a lot of technologies are coming up, that the world is changing, and that it makes or that it makes sense to maybe study something more technical. And then during my bachelor thesis, I actually had the pleasure to already to teach myself how to code, to do Python, to do R, and did a analysis of a pretty big data set. Actually analyzing some sport bets and how it can be used to actually do better predictions than the bookies. And yeah, there I really found the passion, because during my high school I already had the mathematic profile, and I always had a bit the flair and also some talent in mathematics. And this is why then it was the logical step to change to something more technical. And ETH Zurich is actually offering the statistics masters, the masters in statistics, where it is more interdisciplinary, where people also can come from different universities that did not do their bachelor's here, and I'm very thankful for that, because then after the application they accepted me, and ever since I have been really having a deep dive into more technical and artificial intelligence topics. Yeah.
I mean, I hail from the other university, University of St. Gallen HSG, where you did your bachelor, and I think it's fair to say there are some skills you learned there, which is, you know, presenting, business, corporate. I studied economics, but obviously it was never at the level of technicalities what you learn here. But still, probably you have now the best of both worlds, right? You definitely learned a lot about business applications, also technology with a use for something, not just as a beauty in itself. And I mean, fun story, we met actually through a ski weekend, right? So we are both part of we're not the same age, obviously, but we were both part of the same student association in St. Gallen. So shout out to the Ressort International, still very much thriving. And we met at the cool ski weekend in the mountains. And I was really impressed by, the way you think about technology, the world, but also how it impacts humanity. And because at SNGLR, obviously, we're very interested also about the impact technology makes. And I think we're now in probably one of the most exciting phases of the world. But tell me a bit more about your also how you thrive, what you do, maybe outside of studying. I mean, you told me you grew up in Barcelona, and at the kindergarten you learned very early, maybe earlier than here, counting, mathematics, and actually writing. That's amazing. I don't think here in Switzerland they teach that. So how did you spend your childhood, and where were maybe the big steps being made into what brought you here?
Yes, that's a good question. I think I really have a lot of internationality inside of me. I mean, growing up binational, my father is from Barcelona and my mother is here from Switzerland, Zurich. And yeah, at the beginning, I was born in Barcelona and we grew up there until I was 5. I went into the kindergarten there, and then we moved as a whole family back to Switzerland. And yeah, but the internationality actually was something that has accompanied all along my journey so far. During my studies, I actually went 1 year to Shanghai, did there an exchange year to also learn Chinese and really learn the culture, a completely different culture than ours. And then, as you already mentioned, at University of St. Gallen, which is a great university also for the internationality, because it really fosters the international exchange, also through the Resort International, for instance, which is doing bilateral exchange programs, but also with a lot of exchange semesters that one can easily do, which is something that at ETH, for instance, is not as pronounced, that they force this many exchanges. And then I also could go to University of Southern California in LA and Singapore Management University. And those also have been experiences that really shaped me. And
oh, wow.
Really nice.
So you've been, you owned the world. You were in LA, you were in Singapore, you were in Shanghai. I mean,
still much more to explore.
And now and then St. Gallen and Zurich. I mean,
exactly.
we're probably blessed to have you. Yeah, that's amazing. I love Shanghai. I mean, I had probably the best tea in my entire life in Shanghai.
Yes,
it's amazing. And I even did some Tai Chi lessons. I mean, a wonderful city. Yeah, amazing.
And you have also been working a lot as outside of Switzerland. As you
I spent like 16, 18 years on the road, like living life of a strategy consultant, just with your little Toomey bag and running from airport gate to airport gate, you know, last call for Mr. Diemers. But I love traveling and great. So I mean, now in Zurich, how does a typical day look? I mean, you're now finishing up your studies, right? You're writing an interesting master thesis. And what keeps you busy? I really like that you also code. So I think you're not just looking at AI, let's say, from a theory point of view and wrapping up from Turing to today, but you code and you apply it.
Yes, exactly. I think this is something that is really important, that you also have hands-on experience in the AI, on the AI side, on the coding side, because especially with the whole hype of AI that has happened in the last year, there are suddenly many experts on artificial intelligence, and a lot of them actually never have written a single code. And I think this is really important to get the basic understandings of that. But my typical day in the life is really a lot of coding. I mean, I have different. On the one hand, we have the thesis that is also with Singular together, where I'm doing right now, finishing up the coding part to really get the results. But I have also other projects on the one hand, as you know, some other AI projects with Singular, but also some government projects, some local level government from the canton of Schaffhausen, and also part-time tutoring at HWZ.
Oh, wow.
I'm doing tutoring in statistics and data analytics. That is also soon starting again. So also preparing the next semester there.
Yeah,
exactly.
HWZ is, I know it very well. I also teach there blockchain and Metaverse. It's a very practically oriented business school. And
yes.
I think it's great that business leaders of the future need to understand, the basics of what you teach there. Wow, that's amazing. Yeah.
It's always very important. I feel so as well, that it's really important that no matter from which background that you come or what is your profession, I think that AI is, all the technologies are coming more and more into our lives, and it's really important to get the basics of it to really understand what will influence you potentially in the future as well.
Yeah.
What was actually your start into the AI world?
Well, I was as a kid fascinated. I was also a mean coder, but in assembler, and I don't think you use assembler these days to do any AI. Maybe in the background you can run some very fast routines. Maybe. I mean, my entry point was science fiction, both the movies and books. I read a lot of books, Arthur C. Clarke, and then the whole cyberpunk movement, with William Gibson. And there, that was in the 80s, right? I mean, William Gibson wrote left, right, and center about AIs. He was basically creating a vision of a metaverse, which he called cyberspace, that is more or less run by AIs. And every node or every, let's say, hub is protected by ice, so kind of by an artificial ice that is generated by AIs. So it was this game of white hat, black hat hackers. You had to crack the ice to get inside if you were not authorized, etc. So it really spurred my mind, and I grew up with a lot of these thinking about AI. Fair to say, 80s AI was still very early days. Yes. But Stanley Kubrick's 2001 is probably forever ingrained with everyone who ever saw this. With the figure of Hal, where you also saw for the first time the menace. Of course, there's movies like Terminators, but in Hal in 2001, I feel is still most creepy and scary when you realize that your entire life at one point may depend on whatever the AI thinks is happening, right? And so this was an early spur, but in the 80s, AI was far out of more reach. But then in the 90s, at HSG, I did a second startup on intelligent web crawlers. Yeah. This was Web 1.0, where we had the idea you can build small little code programs that independently, autonomously go out, follow link to link to link on the internet, basically surfing HTML code, and then bringing back whatever they find and then dump it in a huge, today you would say probably data lake, and then run so-called semantic analysis on it. But this was all very, very, very basic. And of course, technically not really AI. It was just, in that sense, pattern recognition. You were looking for certain words and similarities, and you gave scores and tried to apply some fuzzy logic. Back then, fuzzy was a word because they said it cannot be always 0 and 1 and exactly. But it was exciting. We did even a startup with that. It was the dot-com bubble. It was relatively straightforward to get financing. But probably many AI startups had the same problem. It's just very disappointing to look at the results, and our investors were not happy. We were not happy, and in the end, it all ended in a huge failure. And it's also sad to say, after 2000, I felt the whole AI topic totally lost interest in general public. I lost interest. I felt like, okay, this didn't work. Probably the technology is not as beautiful as in the movies and the books. And it's almost sad that it took another like 20 years to be today here, where probably everyone on the planet realizes the disruptive impact that this exponential technology has in many myriad of ways. And of course, it's been there now for 10, 15 years, very powerful, but it was kind of under the surface. Maybe just people like you were working on it, researchers, and now suddenly it becomes like the main disruptive technology. Do you also see it like that? What is your take on where AI stands today?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think I already mentioned that currently there's a lot of hype. I mean, ever since that OpenAI has brought out the ChatGPT product, it is in everybody's mouth, and everybody's talking about it and wants to have some applications of it maybe as well. But really, if you are from the space, it is not a surprise that ChatGPT has happened, because there has been a lot of development in NLP, in large language models already over the last years, and it was just a matter of time until somebody actually packs it up as a product and uses it. And this is something that a lot of people do not think about that. And maybe we are right now in a hype, but I think probably this hype will also not last forever, because when we look specifically at generative AI, the current state that it has, it is already quite advanced, and the new steps that will come are probably rather incremental, and therefore not everybody will really see a big difference anymore. I think what now has changed is that AI is really more important to get the applications of AI to really that the industry looks at it, because the tools are now available. And now the industry should really, or companies should really think about how they can implement it, how they can use and leverage the technologies to be more efficient, more effective, and have better quality. And yes, this is, by the way, also something that we could help on doing.
It's something you want to probably do in your life. But is there also a threat factor to it? I mean, these visions of hell and Terminator and Blade Runner. I mean, is there something out there that I mean, Singular has it kind of its intellectual roots at Singularity University with Ray Kurzweil, and Ray Kurzweil wrote in his book, 2035, it's not the end of the world, but it's going to be the moment when AI takes over, where intellectually AI will be way smarter than the entire planet of us humans. Is that a scenario you think is realistic, or do you see any fear, or you're totally embracing it?
Well, I mean, you probably have to embrace it at some point. But actually, I think currently we are still far away from this point. Eventually, we will have, I mean, this is always a bit the tipping point that somebody says, as soon as artificial intelligence can create other artificial intelligence that can be then smarter and smarter until it's out of our reach, basically. But the way that it currently works, I mean, the whole generative AI movement that everybody looks at is not as magical as people think that it might is. In the end, with all different models, it's always about the data. And what a lot of people do not know, things like the large language models would not be possible if there were not huge factories in India where they are just continuously labeling data all day long, thousands of people, and also in other low-cost countries where they are doing this, just to have the labeled data to actually train those models. And generative AI is really looking more into recognizing patterns of existing data, of obviously huge data corpuses from all over the world, from the internet, and it does not itself generate something new. It will never, the way that it is currently set up, it will never create something that no human has ever created. It will just maybe apply it to different areas that has not yet been. It will obviously create new content that has not been written explicitly like this, but it's all a combination of already existing things. And when you see through that, you know that we are not yet at the point where it's probably really an existential threat, or that it's really superhuman. But it really gets close, and it's always increasing and very interesting what type of applications that can obviously be done.
Which brings us to the topic of ethics, right? I mean, another singular, Luca Sambucci, spends a lot of time thinking also ethics in AI. Does AI ever understand the true meaning of power or religion, or what it means to be benevolent versus dangerous? I mean, I studied economics in St. Gallen, and obviously in allocation mechanisms in societies and economies, the benevolent dictator model is actually not doing that badly, right? Because it is effective and quick in decision making, but it needs to have that benevolent element of it. So if we would be able to create an AI that can do that, maybe that's going to be an efficient allocation mechanism for economies, or maybe not. But do you think AI will be ever truly understanding, rather than getting labeled that this is evil, this is good, this is evil? Will they really understand religion, power, good and bad?
The current model's not. But maybe if you change the fundamental architecture, actually that's more self-teaching, it could, but it's a bit of brave prediction to say something, because otherwise you wind this back and it will be completely different anyways than one might think. Yeah.
So not an immediate threat, you would say.
I would not say that.
Yeah. But then who is working on these models, or where is most progress being made in AI? If you look at the global landscape, there's always this notion of, it's the big techs that drive it. And I mean, OpenAI is also more of a big tech than a community of nice people doing something more grassroots. It's not a grassroots thing.
Yeah.
So where do you see, or is it happening all in Asia? What role does Europe play in the global AI race?
Yes, the main problem is that nowadays it's not really possible to have the really powerful models done in a garage at home, something that is really just a small startup of developing big models. Obviously, OpenAI also started small. They had a lot of investment from very reputable investors. So yeah, nowadays you really just need a lot of computational power. And computational power is expensive. You will always need the most high-end computational power to really compete with those big techs. And therefore, it would not surprise me if there will also be those big players. Who knows if maybe some other big players will also join the current ones that will lead the AI development on a large scale. I think it's also important, though, to note that it does not always have to be closed. For instance, Facebook with Llama, which actually has their large language model open source, which is very nice for education, or to really do some in-house development, also for security reasons, that you can just run it locally or on your own servers. So yeah, I think there's always a bit of a trade-off in there, and I think a lot of community-driven projects are also very interesting, because as soon as you make it open source, you can really open it up to the community, and a lot of people can contribute to this code. And the more brain power you have behind such models, the better usually it will also be.
Yes. Oh, amazing. Yeah. I mean, at SNGLR, we also love to discuss interconnectedness of exponential technologies, because you can probably spend your entire life looking at AI and then miss one or two maybe enabling technologies. So just throwing three curveballs here to make the discussion more complex. We're here at ETH, so this should be allowed. I mean, how do you see the impact, for example, of cloud technology, quantum computing, and blockchain on the development of AI? In my view, all three super relevant, right? I mean, cloud is where all the data gets stored, and who controls the cloud probably controls these models and developments. Quantum is a promise. I know here at ETH they're doing a lot of quantum. Will it provide the processing power to get us to the next level? And blockchain maybe is a fail-safe layer, a trust layer, where you could say if certain things get put on a blockchain as a token, even the best AI cannot circumvent that, right? So you cannot just go and delete data and say, no, now it's a zero and not a one. But blockchain has a certain trust capability that you can store certain things and then they're immutable. I like that aspect of it, and it's also redundant and safe because it's decentralized. Do you see, what is your view on the interconnectedness?
Yes, I think this is a part where we'll really get a bit. The interconnectivity will really play a role now in advancing the current technologies. I mean, cloud computing is basically already here. It's already really a lot implemented because it makes sense to have it stored in the cloud to access it from everywhere as well. Quantum computing is really something of the future, which will eventually, when it comes, it will really be disruptive again, but more from the computational power side. It will also enable a lot of new possibilities, maybe in new startups as well, new ways of coding, which will maybe be the next wave of hype that will come eventually as soon as really applications are here. And it's maybe also a bit more also open for the broader future, or also has a bit less costs involved and everything. And blockchain, on the other hand, is something where you obviously have a lot of expertise in it, where I think it probably has some analogies to your previously mentioned AI.com bubble, where really back there was a lot of hype around it. You saw a lot of different startups that were using it. And now, like you said, you didn't think about it for 10, 15 years anymore. But then as soon as you have the actual applications, it will come up again. And for blockchain, it was probably the same thing around 2007, where everybody was doing ICO because it was so easy to raise money. And really a lot of different use cases that were pitched. But I think that the underlying technology will still disrupt a lot of industries, is already disrupting a lot of industries, is already being implemented, but probably not really as openly for the standard users of some type of technology. So how do you see it with blockchain? How do you see how it is moving forward, or what is developed currently?
Yeah, so I think that the trust is there. The trust layer is going to hopefully be provided by blockchain that is immutable and cannot be just kind of gamed. But the even bigger vision I see is basically the metaverse, like 3D worlds coming together, maybe powered with blockchain technology, 3D engines, etc. Because if you think of the embodiment of AI, I mean, in 2001, the AI is basically a red camera lens on the wall that embodies the AI, but we all know the AI is actually in the chips but if you think of today, where do you manifest AI? Probably through devices, right? We interact now with ChatGPT through our laptops. But if we think metaverse, it becomes interesting. You can open a wallet for an AI, a Bitcoin wallet, for example, and then the AI suddenly has agency. It can buy stuff, sell stuff. It can start a business model. I like when you said, very interesting subject. You try to beat the bookies with AI on sports betting. Maybe AIs will find that exciting too as a mission, and if they manage to do it, we'll have a totally new sports betting arena where a lot of AIs are chipping in, and maybe in the end, the bookies will be AIs and so on. That there will be an arms race in, who can outsmart whom, and the metaverse gives maybe the floor or the world for that, because in the metaverse, a AI can grab an avatar, grab the wallet, create the persona, maybe with a nice background story. You can already see how nicely ChatGPT mix narrative storytelling, and then it can be out there in the world with a persona or multiple personas. And I think this is an interesting one. If I were an AI, I would do everything to have as many metaverses as possible up and running, because that's going to be my playground, as opposed to having to work in the background, let's say, of the internet. But that's probably also, like you said, quantum, it's years away. And of course, consciousness is not there yet, but I see blockchain. I see those two really intrinsically together. Blockchain supporting AI, not necessarily the other way around.
Yes, that makes sense. What do you think as well about the danger as well, though, if we have too many AI agents in such a metaverse or something, do they have to be specifically labeled as AI? Or
great question. I mean, probably we need an ID system. We anyways need digital IDs, and especially Switzerland is a bit struggling on that front. But we need digital IDs, and probably AIs will have a digital ID that clearly labels non-human AI and built by Manuel Morales Wyden at ETH, and this is and if there's any issue with it, write him an email and tell him, okay, your AI just entered our server. So I think this is the ID element could also be blockchain based, where it's like not easily to be tampered with, as opposed to an access database that a government runs. So I see a lot of potential there, but we probably need to explore it. And I think ETH is also interesting because when we started with blockchain here, we didn't see a lot of blockchain, let's say, adoption here at ETH. So I think we need more interdisciplinarity, and people from all different areas of technology come together and look for solutions, because it's going to be interdisciplinary. It's going to be interconnected exponential technologies all working together towards what? We don't know, right?
True.
Hopefully a good future, yeah.
That's the ultimate goal, yeah. But I think in general also, like, regulatorily will also shape a bit the future now, the immediate future, because we have seen it already with the Artificial Intelligence Act from the European Union, and I think that since we have talked right now already a lot about some potential downsides or some risks, that there will be some regulation coming, and I think also to be aware of that, also that when companies are implementing some sort of artificial intelligence, that they look that it is a fair implemented, that they know how those different decisions are made, because one typical thing is when you have some CV screening algorithm that selects you the best employers, or the best employees, that you actually know how this decision is made, that it doesn't just discriminate based on the names and so on. And there's a lot of also currently with deep learning and these type of black box models, where it's hard to understand the decisions behind. And I think it's important that this is actually done correctly with explainable AI, that they actually can know how those patterns are done. And important as well to regulate that it's really done properly, but still without restricting the development, which is always a bit
regulation will be exciting. I think the technology wheel is spinning so fast. I don't want to be in the shoes of regulators, but this is again why people like you probably need to engage in that process as experts. And probably the more humans on this planet understand these technologies, what is AI, how does it work, the better, right? Because we don't want to enter blindsided into an exciting future. Maybe to close, I really enjoyed the discussion today. Amazing, and what a venue here. I love it. I mean, to close it off a bit on your work within SNGLR. I mean, at SNGLR there's a VC fund. The VC fund is interesting because we had now repeatedly interesting AI focused startups in the deal flow that we were doing due diligences on. And for example, in our main team, longevity, there's so much to do for AI. I mean, we know skin cancer can today be predicted better than a human by AI. We looked at the startup together that uses MRI scans and then makes like an initial diagnosis on MRI scans and X-ray scans, which just if you think of the work of a radiologist, if an AI looks at 9 million MRIs and learns from that, how does a human ever find the time in his or her life to look at 9 million MRI scans? Likely not. So the AI will always have a bit of a scope advantage. It can just do things more and faster. So a huge application space, both in longevity and in smart city, smart mobility. So I think your support there is very much appreciated. But I think within XLabs, which is our tech unit, where we also built our own solutions, I know you cannot disclose any internal secrets, but what is it generally that you work on there?
currently I'm mostly working on AI for venture capital, and there we really looked at the whole venture capital pipeline that there is, because venture capitalists have always a bit had maybe a negative stigma that it's rather a bit the old white men that are doing the decisions, and it's very slow and very gut feeling, but also there, as in many applications, AI will be the path, will lead the path into the future to do more reliable, also more fair, and also better decisions than an actual human would do. And I think a lot of venture capitalists are maybe slowly in the process of having of getting their experts, of hiring teams to do their artificial intelligence projects, but it's not as easy and not as straightforward as they think, and a lot of them also stop after a while because they see that there is a lot of problem. It is dealing with startups, especially when you have early stage startups. The data is very unstructured. There is nearly no past data available or historical data available that you can get reliably, and therefore it's really important for venture capitalists to start streamlining their data flows already from the beginning, to really do their own internal applications of whatever they want to have, of success prediction, of filtering, of due diligence optimization. It has really of portfolio optimization. There are many different applications, and we are currently looking into them and seeing how we can help venture capitalists, and especially also our own fund, with our own fund in mind.
We eat our own medicine. Yeah, I love that. No, but I love what you say. I mean, I must admit, being in the venture capital business, it is pretty old school in its use of technology. It's not a tech-driven business. And unfortunately, it's also fair to say Europe is probably not a forerunner in early stage VC funding, early stage startup, in general. And if we can up our game here, at least for Europe, and then of course also Asia, US, and Africa, and other interesting markets, it's gonna probably make the world a better place. Because if VC funding would be, let's say, tripled, quadrupled in the coming years, just as a hypothesis, you would see so many more people choosing the entrepreneur's path. I mean, when I graduated from my business school, yeah, it was the dot-com bubble, but I was still in a minority doing a startup. I was maybe in only 5% of students chose the startup path. Everyone else just wanted to go to investment banks, strategy consultants, banks, just have a prestigious, high-paid job at the big brand. And that big brand thing, it's of course cool. The big brands need also talent, but it would be nice to have more young people just do the startup experience. And maybe you fail, but then you learn and you try again. And I see VCs, especially the early stage VCs like we are, have a key role in that. And we want to also discuss at eye level with them, because we're looking also at AI powered startups. Yeah, so I hear the bells ringing. This is probably the sign that we hit our time, our mark. But Manuel, any final famous last words you want to say to the listeners and viewers?
Oh, that's obviously very hard one now in the end, but
how does the future of AI look?
It was obviously a pleasure to be part of this podcast, first of all, and also looking very forward to keep on producing more and more results and products for Singular. Also looking forward to work with potential clients on AI applications. And yes, I think one thing that I already mentioned, there is a lot of hype about AI. The products are available, and I think now it's really a good time to start really looking at how this AI can be implemented for your own business, how you can use and leverage those technologies. Yeah. And the sooner you start, the better, because your competitors will look at it as well, and eventually AI will not replace your job, but somebody who uses AI will replace it.
Yeah.
And I think with those we can have the closure. Yeah.
Thank you very much, and thanks for hosting us here. I know you had to go for permissions because not everyone can just come here and make a podcast. Thanks a lot, Manuel, and have a great day. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks.